If you Google Jordan travel advice, I guarantee that one of the first hits you'll get is a photo of Jerash. Commonly dubbed as the Pompeii of the East, it's an unforgettable experience, and you'll see why in a bit. Jerash is super accessible if you come to Jordan. It's located just 90 minutes north of Amman, and not to mention there's loads of tourism things here, along with guides speaking over 20 different languages. Or, if you're like me sometimes and just want to explore the mystery inside any place, you walk alone without a guide. Our tour today starts at Hadrian's Arch, one of the most prolific arches in the city. And in terms of all of the arches I've seen in my life, it's a pretty good arch. In 129 CE, the Roman Emperor Hadrian visited Jerash. Like both many of my ex-boyfriends and VPN services, Hadrian was known for one thing: building walls. So, to commemorate Hadrian's visit to Jerash, instead of building a wall, they built a huge arch to serve as a reminder that the emperor visited the city. Oh, if I only could make the same baller impression in the teams I lead back in my day job. Whoa! Now before we get too far, the thing I've got to mention is that many of these pillars you see standing have stood the test of time, earthquakes, and even more earthquakes. You see, this is an advanced Roman city. Around us, we see many of the original buildings still standing, and we can walk through them. Imagine how busy the city must have been. Chariots, cows, camels. And then, in 749 CE, after enduring the Greek, Hellenistic, Roman, and Byzantine periods, Mother Nature showed Jerash who was queen and destroyed a huge part of the city. After that, it was slightly rebuilt until the Crusaders came in the 12th century and entirely destroyed what was left, except for what we see today. When the Ottomans came in the 16th century, they set up a tiny community here, but it wasn't until the early 20th century that it would start to be re-excavated again. Some parts still remain entirely buried from the series of earthquakes that continue to damage this place. It's of importance to note that this is one of the 12 oldest sites in the world that archaeologists have found ruins dating back to over 7,500 BCE. Being here is special. What we see today, though, is a master of Roman innovation. During the time Jerash was being constructed, the Romans discovered that if they put metal in the middle of their pillars, they stood up longer, which is why we see such glorious architecture here. Similar to Uncase that we went to last week, Jerash was also part of the Decapolis. Unlike Uncase though, Jerash was used as an activity center. In this area, chariots used to race against each other. And here, old plays hosting some of the best playwrights and storytellers of the time were broadcasted to thousands of people. The coolest area I found was the old marketplace. This oval district was where hundreds of shop owners collected together to sell, stuff. And as it sat right next to the chariot racing track and amphitheater, it was the prime location for vendors to even sell more stuff. Now, I've been to Pompeii before. And while Pompeii is much better preserved thanks to the volcano that covered it for thousands of years, the immensity of this street muffles how small Pompeii actually was. The pillars that stand, the road with chariot tracks that actually make you fall over if you miss the groove in them. Imagine just shops on each side of the street. Jerash may not have been preserved as well as Pompeii, but it was massive when it was in its glory days. I mentioned earlier that the Byzantines occupied this area for a bit. As their religion was Orthodox, they set up a bunch of churches on top of old pagan sites. And while most of the sites are blocked off here, you can actually touch the tiles where people from over hundreds of years ago performed religious ceremonies. What the f***? Other Christian churches are still buried due to the monster earthquakes that happened in the early 8th century. So today, fellow travelers, I leave you with 3 tips if you visit Jerash. Summer, it's freaking hot. I had all 3 of my cameras overheat in this area, so if you want really good photos, don't go in summer. Wait until December or January. There will be way more tourists, but your cameras will still not melt. It's a very photogenic place. Understand that hostelers in this area probably aren't regulated by Jerash, but they live here, and they have for centuries. So expect to pay them if you engage with them, even if they take your photo. It's a true statement that there is no such thing as a free lunch, or photo, or conversation. Plan on spending the entire day here. I saw so many people racing through this place and not being able to explore the old shops, churches, or other hidden nooks. Jerash is massive, and as you can openly explore, it's worth planning too much time to just get lost and pretend what it must have been like over 2,000 years ago. Whenever chariots were riding along on the streets, when you could hear the roar of the amphitheater in the distance, when the smell of fresh bread started to rise from the bakery near the street, or just wanted to say, "What up?" to one of the local gods. Jerash is dope. Please visit. And remember, if you visit, you'll need the Jordan Pass. Next week, I'll go into more detail on the Jordan Pass and why it's worth a hefty price to buy it before you arrive. Thanks for watching this episode of my Jordan Diaries. Subscribe if you haven't. Bye!